The Locked On Podcast Network presents the NFL Big 3 in 30. The three biggest stories in the NFL from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The NFL Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest story in the NFL.
Oh, yes, the Detroit Lions find another way to win.
You are Locked On Lions, your daily Detroit Lions podcast.
His Packers just got swept by the Lions. Yes, I'm wearing my floppy hat. It was floppy hat night tonight. Got my my Lions floppy hat. You like that? Whew, what a game. Jake Bates kicks the game-winning field goal from 31 yards out as the Detroit Lions decide at the end of this game, instead of taking the field goal on 4th and inches, instead they go for it on 4th and 1. David Montgomery gets the first down, moves them even closer. A decision that, what was interesting was on the radio side, TJ Lang was like, go for it. And Lomas Brown's like, no, take the points. And TJ's like, you don't want to give Jordan Love the ball back with 45 seconds to go. Dan Campbell, who was gambling all night, sometimes good, sometimes bad, decided to go for it. The Lions got it, ran the clock down, and Jake Bates kicks the game-winning field goal to win it 34-31. Think about this. The Lions against the Packers this year, in the two games that they've won, on 4th down, 7 out of 8. 7 out of 8. And the one was tonight on 4th and 1 when, for some reason, the Lions decided to run a stretch play on a pitchback to Jahmyr Gibbs, making him run 8 yards to get one. That was one of the worst calls of the season from Ben Johnson. But regardless, this team finds a way. And, being there tonight, crowd was great. Atmosphere is amazing. You, the fans, are unbelievable how loud you are. But there was a little something that happened before the game that I thought was a very, very telltale sign. The Packers come out, everybody's booing, everybody's hissing, oh, the Packers, whatever. And here come the Lions out of the tunnel. Crowd goes nuts. They're let out by Jared Goff and Penei Sewell. And I'm like, wait, Jared Goff's coming out first. They're introducing the defense? Because the defense has 14 guys on injured reserve. I'm not naming them all, but there's a ton of them. And Josh Pascal wasn't playing. And Levi Onwuzurike wasn't playing. And DJ Reader wasn't playing. So you got dudes like Pat O'Connor, Quan Alexander, Al-Qadim Muhammad getting introduced to the crowd. And it's like, I love that. I loved it. It was like, these misfits need to be introduced. They need to get some shine. I turned to Turner and I said, Patrick O'Connor may never start another game in his whole career. Kid from Eastern Michigan. He's getting a chance to not only start the game, but get an introduction to the crowd. And he gets to run out of the tunnel. It tells you what this team's about and how unselfish they are. It would have been very easy to just introduce the offense because the offense is, other than Taylor Decker, everybody's healthy. But on the defense tonight, they basically started up front. Muhammad, Zadarius Smith, Lee McNeil, and Patrick O'Connor. Quan Alexander, who was just signed, started at linebacker. Zeke Turner made a very big stop on Jordan Love on a scramble play in the fourth quarter tonight. You had plenty of guys out on the field that you didn't even know who they were. Jonah Williams, number 78. You have to look it up in your program to see who that is. Broderick Martin's out there. Hadn't played all year. Hadn't played in 2 years. Right? David Long's out there. Yet this defense, and yes, I get it. They gave up 31 points. It wasn't the greatest performance, but Jared Goff threw a bad interception. Packers got a short field. But when the Lions needed some stops tonight, they got them. Green Bay had to settle for a field goal late to make it a 31-31 game, but left enough time on the clock for the Lions to come down and score. Jared Goff to Tim Patrick tonight over and over again was a deadly combination. Goff finished tonight, where is it? 32 out of 41, 283, 3 touchdowns, a passer rating of 109.7. The ground game was not great tonight. David Montgomery rushed 4 times for 51 yards. Jahmyr Gibbs, 15 carries, 43 yards. It just seemed like Green Bay was loading the box and doing a good job against the run. So the Lions were forced to throw more times than they wanted to. I didn't think Green Bay ran it enough tonight. Lions ran it 34 times, Green Bay 24. I was a little bit surprised at the amount of passing plays the Packers ran. But early in this game, when the Lions led 10-0 out of the gate, it was the defensive line. It was the Mohammeds, the O'Connors, the Martins, McNeil, that were getting penetration on Jordan Love and bothering him. Jordan Love tonight finished with a 206 passing yard night, just 1 touchdown. Yeah, he had a good passer rating, 111.7, but he didn't dominate this game. The Lions held Jaden Reed, a really good receiver, to 1 target, no catches. You got to take your hat off to this defense, this coaching staff, obviously the offense, because at the end of the game, Lions got the ball with just over 2 minutes to go. You knew they were going down and scoring. You knew it. Green Bay could not stop them. Jared Goff made some big throws when needed. Offensive line did the job. They played through some penalties. The Frank Ragnow holding call, which gave him a 1st and 20 late. Yet the Lions still found a way. As Goff hit Amon-Ra St. Brown, David Montgomery got the first down. And this team is something special. I just figured going into tonight, and I was wrong, although I got the score right. I said 34-31 Green Bay. I just thought it was going to be too much to overcome. Too many guys out. Then only McNeil gets a concussion and has to leave the game. Brian Branch injured his leg at the end of the game and had to come out. Brandon Joseph came in. And you're like, oh my gosh, how many more guys is this team going to lose on defense? And yet, defense did a pretty darn good job tonight. Yes, the Packers put up 31 points. Yes, there were some times in the second half you're like, oh my gosh, what's going on? Why can't they stop Green Bay? Packers put up 24 second half points. But the Lions held Green Bay to 7 first half points. If I told you at the start of the day, Josh Jacobs would only run for 66 yards, and I know he had 3 touchdowns, all of them the short variety. You take that. You take it. And the Lions just found a way, time and time again, to get it done. Doesn't matter if it's pretty, doesn't matter if they cover the spread, doesn't matter about double-digit wins and all this. And next week's going to be very difficult with Buffalo, but a division game, the Lions have not lost a division game yet. Minnesota beat them. Chicago beat them. Green Bay twice beat them. They got to go to Chicago later in the year. They got to host Minnesota in week 18. But this team gets it done. They get it done. All they do is win. And they clinch a playoff berth tonight. And I know for many people that's not a big deal. It is a big deal because this franchise for years was never in the tournament. Never did the heavy lifting in January. Never. And now they're going to do it again. Get back to the postseason again. Second straight year.
The NFL action as we head toward the playoffs with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. You're going to want to check out some lines for the NFL this Sunday. Kirk Cousins faces his former team in Minnesota. FanDuel has the Vikings 5.5-point favorites over the Falcons. Or you could check out Bills Rams. FanDuel has the Bills 3.5-point favorites in LA. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. The Green Bay Packers got absolutely robbed.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast.
I can't remember the last time I came on this microphone after a game so incensed over the officiating. I freaking hate complaining about officiating. I hate it. It is so lame. It's so stupid that we have to come on here and do this. But the reality is, that's what happened in this football game. It was big call after big call after big call after big call. Missed, going the wrong direction, a touchdown because Keyshawn Nixon is clean up the middle, gets grabbed, no call. Jordan Love, smacked in the face, clear as day, no call. They showed a replay. They highlighted Amon-Ra St. Brown taking Xavier McKinney's helmet off. Clean shot to the helmet. No call. And on that last offensive possession by the Packers, that offensive pass interference was absolutely garbage. Terrible. Trash all game long. It wasn't even a pick play. Learn ball, officiators. Learn ball. It was supposed to be a screen to the opposite side. Jordan Love has to roll to his right to find Josh Jacobs. It was not in the play call for him to go pick the safety who has to come out late to the running back. These sorts of plays happen every time. And if you're going to call that one, then you have to call the one against Keyshawn Nixon late in the game. It was just not an even playing field. And I'm not going to accuse anybody of fixing matches. That part of it is stupid. This is the Hanlon's razor. Do not ascribe to malice what can be more easily explained by incompetence. The NFL officiating is just this bad. It's just this bad. It hasn't cost the Packers this year, but it has been this bad all season. For years, it has been this bad. The Packers in this football game averaged 6.6 yards per play. The Lions, 5.1 yards per play. Turnovers, even. Penalties, even. Except a slew of them not called. The Packers, especially in the second half, well outplayed the Lions. But it wasn't enough because they had to overcome not just the Lions, but the Lions and the officiating. Again, I hate this. I hate it. Get mad in the comments, Lions fans. Fine. Get mad. Cry. I get it. I hate this too. I wish this game had been decided on the football field, but that's not what happened. It was so obvious all game that this is how it was. I called it in the first quarter. I guess this is just what it's going to be. I don't have fear of the Lions in the postseason. I hope this happens again. I really do. I hope we get to see this matchup one more time. First of all, it's really hard to beat a team 3 times in a row. But I also think the Packers in Detroit, they match up plenty well with this team. No Romeo Doubs, no Jair Alexander. To me, bigger than anything that the Lions were dealing with injury-wise. Now, I thought in the first half, Let me give credit to the Lions. In the first half, their defense played outstanding. Aaron Glenn had them schemed up. They were playing more physical. The Packers' offensive line was not ready to meet this moment. They got down early. It's 17-7 at halftime. At the end of the first half, the Lions offense marches right down the field, scores as time remains. We have to talk about this, though. The flukiness of both of these games with the fourth down calls. 4 fourth down touchdowns plus a fourth down sealer. That is fluky as hell. That is fluky as hell. This is not. I said after the first half, I said the Lions look like they are clearly the better team. They were better coached. They were more disciplined, all those things. I do not come away from this game in the second half believing that because of the way the Packers played, because of the way the Packers responded. I believe these teams are pretty close. And I said this during the week. I said, look, if the Packers come out and play this team close and lose a close game, I'm not going to feel like it was a huge loss. Because the Lions should win. Even with the injuries, the Lions should win. But that this was the Packers' opportunity to prove that they are every bit as good as the Detroit Lions. They did that. They did that. What they had to overcome was some of the worst officiating I've ever seen in a Packers game. A game like it has been. And look, Lions fans, if you want to whine, if you want to cry, if you want to laugh at me being upset, please do. But ask a Packers fan friend who listens to this show and ask them when the last time I came on this program and complained about officiating. I hate doing it. I almost never do it. I really don't. Because it is, generally speaking, boring analysis. And usually it's just cope. But that's not what happened. The Packers got their red zone offense going. They moved the ball at will on this defense, this banged up defense. They got the key turnover. They got the key stop on fourth down to give them a lead. They had leads for much of the second half. This team is as good as the Lions. What they couldn't overcome was missed calls and bad calls all over the field all night. Now, I don't have any faith that if this game gets played again, it's not going to go the same way. Because it's hard not to feel like the fix wasn't in. Let me try and say that in the affirmative. It felt like for long stretches of this game that the fix was in. That the Lions got the more favorable whistle at home. This is like an NBA game where the home team shot 30 free throws and the road team shot 15. That's what it felt like. And if that's what the NFL wants, I guess I understand it in a way. But that doesn't mean I have to accept it. This was embarrassing for the league. Embarrassing. It really was. I don't think any differently of the Packers after this game than I did going in. I thought they were every bit as good as the Lions. I thought they would beat the Lions. And I thought they, for really the entire second half and then parts of the first half, outplayed the Lions. They got the turnover they needed. If they don't have the Christian Watson turnover, they probably win this game. But if the Keyshawn Nixon penalty gets called correctly, they probably win this game. If the Christian Watson penalty or non-penalty gets called correctly, they probably win this game. So how can I sit here and blame the Packers when I don't think that's what happened? Credit the Lions for playing tough with all the defensive injuries that they have and Taylor Decker being out. Credit to the Lions. They did play well enough to win. But so did the Packers, and this game was not decided. I just want to see the game decided on the field. That's what I want. I don't come on the post-game show to cope. It's not what I'm here for. It's not what I'm here to do. I don't think it's useful to anybody to do that. But I wanted the game to be decided on the field, and it wasn't. Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more near you. You can take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime.
The Los Angeles Chargers are looking to upset the Chiefs.
Daniel, the first time the Chargers and Chiefs played, it was a much different story. Justin Herbert was hobbled. Both tackles were out. Now they're all healthy and ready to go, and Justin Herbert needs to use those legs in a big way to help his offense and help his team win this game. And on defense, they have to eliminate the tight ends. The Chiefs love to utilize the tight ends. Their leading receiver this year is Travis Kelce after a bad start. And then, of course, as always, we got to wrap it up with our bold and game predictions.
And as always, we will get super bold, including Athir having maybe one of his boldest predictions of the year. But you can start this season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. David, this is something you brought up to me before the show when we were talking about what the Chargers need to do to find the recipe for an upset in Kansas City in prime time on Sunday Night Football. And you brought up the Rose Bowl version of Justin Herbert. And I think it's a great call because I think when you're looking at how the Chargers, specifically with what they have and who they have available to them right now, need to do to get this done, you're looking at, okay, you're going to have to kind of get out of your comfort zone a little bit. You're going to have to see some things from this team that maybe we haven't seen as much. And I think one of those things is just seeing Justin Herbert run the ball consistently. But I think in this matchup with the Kansas City Chiefs, in a game you're looking to pull off the upset, I think it's a great call that he needs to use his legs more in this game.
He does. Justin Herbert is a dynamic athlete, and he has had games in the past where he's been able to take over the game. One game that sticks in my mind always is the game against the Pittsburgh Steelers at night in prime time where he ran wild. Yeah. And so he has that ability. He definitely has the ability to run and utilize his legs, keep that clock churning, keep the possession of the football, and make sure that you're moving down the field. And hey, the one team that beat the Chiefs this year is the Buffalo Bills, and of course, they have Josh Allen. Josh Allen rushed it 12 times for 55 yards and a touchdown in their win over the Kansas City Chiefs. So, I mean, I'm not saying Justin Herbert is Josh Allen, but Justin Herbert can definitely run the ball, and he is a dynamic athlete, and I think it's going to take every single bit of his athletic ability in order to win this game on Sunday night.
Well, I don't even think it's the rushing total from Josh Allen that you look at and say, hey, you have to replicate that, as much as it is the moment that they sealed that game, which is the Buffalo Bills up by 2 points late in the fourth quarter. They could have kicked a field goal to go up 5, which is like a nightmare scenario going up against Patrick Mahomes with any amount of time left, pretty much. And on 4th and 2 or 3, he ends up keeping it himself. Not only does he get the first down, he runs it in for a touchdown that makes it a 9-point game that the Kansas City Chiefs can't overcome. And I think when you see that, it's like, yeah, Justin Herbert might need one of those moments in this game if they're going to pull off the win. And I think when you just look at the Chargers' struggles offensively, especially in the last game, and you look at what they've done in some of their better scoring games, almost all of them have to do with Justin Herbert having a big rushing game. 65 yards versus the Bengals, right? In that game, he had 34 yards, 32 yards versus Tennessee, and they ended up, 65 yards versus Cincinnati, and they put up 34 points in that game. 32 yards versus Tennessee, they put up 27. 49 yards versus the Saints, and they put up 26. When he runs the ball well, all of his best games have turned into not only big point totals for the Chargers, but also wins for the Chargers. Yep. And also, Daniel Popper just wrote a great piece about how teams are trying to combat the Chargers passing attack, and it's a lot of man coverage, hoping guys like, not named Vlad McConkey can beat them. And it's worked out pretty well for the last 3 teams that have done it, especially in the second half against the Bengals. As he put, the Ravens used a ton of man. The Chiefs are going to use a ton of man coverage. 6th highest man coverage percentage according to Popper. So one of the things that opens up is the ability for the quarterback to run, because it's harder to run against zone coverages than it is against man coverages, because in man, you have a lot of guys turning their backs to you, which means it could open up some big rushing lanes for Justin Herbert. But I also think the big kind of important thing for this game that I need to see from the Chargers is not letting the Kansas City Chiefs pass rush take over like it did in the last game. The good news is they have their tackles back for this game, so that's a huge added bonus. You also, in that last game, gave up 18 pressures and 7 quarterback hits against an injured Justin Herbert who wasn't nearly as mobile. But 5 of those pressures were allowed by Sam Mustipher and Jamari Sawyer. So you're already kind of in the bonus from that regard. But I also think it's just, hey, you have to do a much better job of identifying who is coming, because 8 different players registered a pressure in that game. And you can't let Chris Jones just absolutely wreck your offensive game plan. 6 pressures, 2 sacks, 3 hurries in the last game. That is just a recipe for an offensive drought like we're trying to see the Chargers get away from. If they can do that and not let the Chiefs pass rush take over, they're going to have a good chance to put some points up offensively.
Anyone but that guy. Anyone but Chris Jones is really what the answer is. Obviously, you got to respect George Karlaftis as well. He's the kind of the second leader in sacks on that team.
Sure.
But it's Chris Jones, it's
a
George
wide gap.
Karlaftis, and that's everybody else. I mean, those are the 2 guys you got to worry about. And, of course, when we're talking about pass rush against the Chargers this year in 2024, it's the interior pressure that scares you and bothers you the most. We know who Chris Jones is. We've seen him every single year, twice a year for the last 7 or 8 years. We know how dynamic he can be. Do not let him wreck the game.
And it's what scares me the most over the next 2 games. The next 2 games, you get Chris Jones this week and you get Vita Vea next week. And this is a huge test for this interior.
No rest for the weary or the wicked.
Not at all. And I mean, last week it wasn't just enough for the offensive line to hold up, because as we saw several plays, the Chargers offensive line held up and gave Justin Herbert enough time, and there were coverage sacks. So I think one of the big things I had for this one is just someone in the supporting cast has to step up. That's not named Ladd McConkey. No J.K. Dobbins for this game. Ladd McConkey is banged up, but it seems, at least from the outside looking in, that he's on track to play. He's been able to practice every day this week. We'll see what happens in the final injury report and what his game status is. He said if he can, he's going to be out there playing. But it shouldn't have to really come down to that. Like, it's going to come down to more than needing Ladd McConkey, because if anyone has learned anything over the last few weeks, it's if you can stop Ladd McConkey, you're going to have a good chance of slowing down the Chargers offense. And they are going to know that. They're going to double team Ladd McConkey. They're going to shift their defensive coverages in Ladd McConkey's direction. So it means it has to be a Josh Palmer stepping up, a Gus Edwards, a Will Dissly, a Quentin Johnston. Like, somebody else in the supporting cast has to be able to step up, because it can't just be the Ladd McConkey show every week. That was the thumbnail last week. That was the game plan, and that was the right game plan. But other teams are onto it now, and somebody else is going to have to step up, especially in a giant game like this, if the Chargers want to pull off an upset.
I completely agree. And I think as part of those supporting cast kind of stepping up, it's trying to put them in positions to utilize their strengths. And it's going to take a village here against the Chiefs. So that means everybody doing what they do best. Get the ball in the hands of Darius Davis in space. Get the ball in the hands of Quentin Johnston in those abilities to get the run after catch, the quick passes. I need to see more screens. Just 8% of Justin Herbert's passing attempts this year have been the screens. It's just not enough. I mean, they don't utilize it enough. You got to get the ball in the hands of your running backs. Let them get moving, get the ball down the field. And also, there is a good matchup here against the slot. Shamari Connor, the slot corner for the Chiefs, has not had a lot. The last 3 games have not been great. 6 of 7, 4 of 4, 5 of 6 allowed. That's 15 of 17 for 191 yards in the last 3 games alone. He is one of the weaker members of this Chiefs secondary. He is somebody you should be going after repeatedly.
Which, when you have Ladd McConkey, obviously that's a great kind of advantage for the Chargers. But at the same time, if I'm the Chiefs, there's no way I'm not trying to get Trent McDuffie on Ladd McConkey as much as I possibly can. So then it'll be up to Greg Roman, who obviously that's another key, is just Greg Roman has to be better, right? In these big downs, the spacing has to be better. The decisions, what he thinks the defense is going to do has to be better, because he seems like the other teams have been kind of knowing exactly what to do in these big moments. And like we saw last week, some play calls were the routes that were being run. Man. It just, he has to be better, defensive, second half adjustments, things like that. When teams adjust and take Ladd away, you have to be able to respond better than the Chargers did last week, period, end of story. So even if it's a good matchup, let's see if the Chargers can exploit it. And then defensively, I think one of the best parts of last week was just how the Chargers made Kirk Cousins look like a $3 million quarterback instead of a $50 million quarterback. And now they get a chance to try to confuse Patrick Mahomes and hopefully take away his weapons at tight end, because we know that him and Andy Reid love to use them.